program works. So I know there are questions, and I appreciate that, and I'm gonna get to some of these questions at the end. But let me talk about what you say at the front door. So this is really important. So the first 90 seconds can be scary. And I don't really have time to recant the first couple of times I went to the door, but this kind of resembles what I felt like. Okay, this image here resembled kind of what I felt like. And for a guy that does a lot of public speaking and who doesn't really have any fear of being out in front of large groups of people, I was really perplexed at my fear that I had of doing a face-to-face meeting at the front door of somebody who was facing foreclosure, even though I knew that I had very specialized knowledge and skills that could be very beneficial to them, and I wasn't there to try to make any money on them. Okay, my objective was truly to assist them, to advocate for them. Okay, so, but I was, and what I found, the reason for that is I wasn't adequately prepared. I didn't know what I was going to say. I just thought that I would just use charm and charisma in order to work my way through. And I found that wasn't very effective, that I really needed to be prepared with some sort of opening statement and have some idea of what the flow of the conversation was going to go. So this is what I created. It helped me, and now it's helped almost 300 people who've been through the coaching program. It's helped them as well. So we knock on the door. We tell them that we're there to make the delivery. We let them know that we're a homeowner advocate and we're there to assist them as part of a public outreach where we only work with a handful of clients at a particular time. And the only thing that there's no cost or obligation. And the only thing that we ask for is that they want our assistance. As long as they want our assistance, we will help them at no cost or obligation. We show them the foreclosure date from the public records, and we say, according to the public records, you have a foreclosure date coming up on such and such a date. And then we simply ask them if they've gotten it taken care of. And it sounds like this. So it looks like you have a foreclosure date coming up on April 4th, and my primary concern is to really make sure that you've gotten it taken care of. That simple. If they say yes, then we get into our objection dialogue, which I'll cover here in a second. If they say no, just leave the package, and then we leave the package, but we leave it with an explanation, and I'll show how we do that in a minute. And at some point, as we're going through the package, so going through the package might sound like, so here are the alternatives of foreclosure. There are 9 alternatives. Here's 1, that's not an option. Here's 2, that's not an option. I'll cover that in a minute. And so when I'm watching their body language, or I'm waiting for them to ask a question, and when they do, that's my opportunity to insert a question. Well, tell me, what did the bank do to you? So I'm looking for an opportunity. So their body language is going to show that I hit a nerve, or their question is going to show that I hit a weak spot, and that is where I'm going to insert the question. So when I feel like I said something that triggered some sort of physical or emotional response, that's when I ask, what did the bank do to you? And my objective is to schedule a next meeting. So what I found is that the moment I shifted my focus from getting a listing or figuring out how I was going to get a listing to focus on purely helping that client and focusing on getting a second meeting, I found that I had enormously more success. So now when people ask me, David, what is my goal of my first meeting? When I go to the first meeting, what is it I'm trying to accomplish? And the short answer is, the only thing you need to be worried about is getting a second meeting. Because if you're only focused about getting the second meeting, everything that you say and do is really designed to set up a second meeting. And while it is possible to get a listing on the first call, and while it is possible to write an offer if you're an investor on a first call, it happens so rarely that focusing on that will only limit the potential. We have found that it takes 2 or 3 or 4 meetings over a couple of weeks before you're able to get the listing in many cases. It is not that unusual to get a listing on the second meeting. It's less unusual to get it on the third meeting, and it's very common to get it on the fourth meeting. So you're building a relationship with them that takes 2 or 3 or 4 meetings sometimes in order to get them to the point where they realize, A, you really are trying to help them, B, that you are the most qualified person to help them, and 3, that they don't really have any options but to trust you and to begin a plan of transitioning into a new house, which involves selling the house, either with you being the buyer or you being the listing agent to help them do that. Okay, so here's the actual door word track that we created. So we cover this in great detail in the second week of the coaching group that we're starting. By the way, we're starting a new coaching group on April 4th, next Tuesday. So it's going to be a 4-week course. We're going to take the second week off because it's Passover, and then we'll resume the 3rd, 4th, and 5th weeks after that. There'll be 4 total classes that we're doing as a group. They're going to be on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. We cover this in the second week in some detail. So the word track flow goes something like this. Hey, I'm David-Bartels. I'm affiliated with Home Loan Advocates. As part of our public outreach, we work with homeowners to help them avoid foreclosure. My records show that you've got a foreclosure date scheduled for April 4th, and I wanted to make sure that you have it taken care of. They're going to say yes most of the time. I say, great. Are you writing a check for the past due balance, getting the loan mod, or selling the home? Well, what I've just done by asking that question is put them on the money right up front what their 3 options are. Okay? Past due balance is probably not an option. Getting a loan mod is something they've probably tried and failed. And selling the home is really the last option. But I put them on the money. Are you writing a check for the past due balance, getting a loan mod, or selling the home? If they say loan mod, which they do more than 90% of the time, great. Is somebody helping you, like an attorney or a real estate professional? They almost always say yes. I say, great. You didn't pay them up front to help you, did you? They almost always say yes. Okay? And when they do that, I say, okay, well, I have 2 concerns. And now we're showing, and I'm pulling out the right flyer for each of these. According to the California Homeowner Bill of Rights, it's illegal for you to be in an active loan mod review and have an active foreclosure date. So either you're not in an active loan mod review like you think you are, and the bank is going to foreclose on you on April 4th, or you are in an active loan mod review and the bank is going to illegally foreclose on you on April 4th. Either way, we need to get to the bottom of this as quickly as possible so you don't lose your house to foreclosure. My second concern, which I only say if there was an upfront fee paid, is that the person who is helping you illegally took money from you to help you get the loan mod. So I need to ask you a really important question, and that is, when was the last time you spoke to the bank? Okay? In other words, what I'm saying is that you shouldn't trust this person for your information about what's happening with your loan mod. Okay? You need to have a conversation with the bank. And then we explained, I think it's very important that you speak to the bank directly. I'd be happy to step inside with you and call the bank with you. I have 7 or 8 questions that we should ask the bank to find out exactly what's going on so we can figure out all the options to stop the sale and see if it's possible to save your house from foreclosure. Would you like me to do that with you? And sometimes they let you and sometimes they don't. And it's not unusual that they say no at first and then they say yes later. And they say yes later when I start I start coaching. They say, no, I'm going to do it myself. I say, fine, here's the form I want you to use. This is really an important log. And you need to make sure that you're keeping a log of all your communication with the lender. So put the date and the time and the person that you spoke to. So the first question I want you to ask them is, when is your foreclosure date? It's possible that it's not April 4th, that they postponed it and they just haven't updated the records. So I want you to ask that. If they give you a foreclosure date, then you should be very worried that you are not in active loan mod review. Okay? And you need to ask them, the next question is, are you in active loan mod review? And if they say yes, you need to know the date you went into review. The date you went into review is very important because they have to postpone the sale from that date forward, and they shouldn't have any kind of foreclosure date. And by law, they're supposed to give you an answer on your loan modification application within 30 days of going live. So the date itself is very important. Now, I make this sound more complicated than it is because at some point they kind of look at me perplexed and I say, are you sure you don't want me to just go in and do this with you right now? And you can see me do it the first time and then you can do the follow-ups. And oftentimes they say, yeah, would you mind? and that's how I get into the door. So sometimes they say no, and then I start trying to coach them up, and their head starts spinning. And then I ask again, are you sure you don't want me to go in there and do this with you so you can at least see how we do it the first time? And I can instantly tell you what the data means as well, what the answers mean, so that you know exactly what your next steps need to be to avoid foreclosure. Okay? And so the foreclosure, so you're supposed to say if you have a foreclosure date, the foreclosure date should be postponed during the loan mod review, and make them explain that to you. And do you have everything that you need to make a decision on my application? It's either yes or no. And then we want to know, what income are you using to calculate my modification? What expenses are you using to calculate my modification? Those two questions are really important, because we can take those numbers and we can do the front end, the pre-mod cash flow, the post-mod cash flow. We can calculate front-end debt to income in a lot of cases, and back-end debt to income. And we can start to see what 4 of the 5 mathematical parameters are required in order to get them loan mod. Oftentimes when I get this, I'm able to point out to them mathematically very clearly why there is no way that they're going to get a loan modification. And I can express to them my concern, which is a valid concern, that they're going to deny their loan modification, and they're going to set a foreclosure date that doesn't allow them any time to take any kind of evasive action, and they're going to end up losing their house to foreclosure. So by applying for a loan modification that you have a very low probability of getting approved can actually endanger your ability to avoid foreclosure and to buy more time in the house and to negotiate a bank to get some transition funds to help you get transitioned into a new home. So I'm able to talk to them about that. And for those of you that are in the coaching group that we're talking about here, this Advocate Marketing System group, you know that I'll actually get on the phone and have some of these conversations with your sellers as needed in order to help give you third-party validation of what we're talking about. We ask them, when do you think a decision will be made? How do you recommend I get an update? If they don't have everything they need, what information do you need to get my application under review, and when and how do you recommend I get an update? So we're asking these questions. One of the things that we train, because there's subsequent appointments, is that I'm asking them to call the bank at least once a week to ask them these questions, and to call me with an update. So they say, I'm going to call the bank tomorrow. I said, great. Will you call me and tell me what they say? And if they don't call me tomorrow, I'm calling them late in the day or texting them and saying, hey, what happened when you spoke to the bank? And I'm trying to get on the phone. And so my follow-up doesn't call about, hey, are you ready to list your house? My follow-up is, hey, what did the bank say? What did the bank say? Because I know that when the bank says no, you're not getting your loan mod, and you have a new foreclosure date, which is going to happen 96% of the time, okay? When that happens, I know, because I've been the one that has been lockstep with them and trying to get their loan mod, that I'm going to be the person that they call, and I'm going to be the person they review those results with, and I get to say, listen, I'm so sorry to hear that. I was afraid you weren't going to get a loan mod. Why don't I come on over and we can talk about your options from here and figure out what the next steps are so we can avoid foreclosure. And the next step is listing their house and buying them a few more months in the house, as opposed to, and we have to shift the strategy from keeping the house forever to buying them a few more months, getting them some money from the bank, and helping them transition in something they can afford. And notice I use the word transition. I don't use the word sell their house. You need to sell your house. I said, well, we need to talk about a transition plan. We see if we can buy you a few more months in the house, get some money socked away, get the bank to give you some money so that you've got a nest egg so that you can get comfortably transitioned into something else. This is the loan mod cash flow worksheet that we teach in the 3rd week of the group coaching, where we're identifying, I show you what the mathematical formulas are, what pre-mod cash flow should look like for ideal loan modification, and what post-mod cash flow should look like. We have to demonstrate to the bank that they can't afford their current loan payment, but they could afford a modified loan payment within the bank guidelines. And I show you how to complete this, and then we show you how to explain it to the sellers. And then sometimes I actually explain it to the sellers for you. The alternate foreclosure flyer is a really great conversion tool. It's the most effective conversion tool that we've ever created. And basically, I said, so at the face-to-face meeting, I'm saying, hey, listen, you've got 9 options here. Okay, which one is